Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us at this Your Overseas Home webinar, legal tips and advice, all you need to know about property purchase in Portugal. Now, here's an interesting fact. In the Property Guide survey last year, we asked people who had not bought yet what they were worried about, and 40% said they were confused and worried about the legal process. 40%. When we asked people who had already bought, how the buying process was, 85% said it was either much easier than they expected or was just really easy. So uh, you should have no fear about the buying process, but you do need to work with experts. So it's great to have you with us, whether you're watching live or on demand. And today I am joined by Jessica Ramos, a paralegal at Matlaw, and Joanna Mill-Hommins, who is also a paralegal uh, at Matlaw. So why don't we start off by each of you introducing yourself and just telling us a little bit about Matlaw?
Okay, so let me start. Hello to everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. First and foremost, I would like to express our gratitude for the opportunity to speak with you. We truly enjoy events like this and the chance to connect with those considering investing or relocating to our beautiful country of Portugal. So my name is Joana, and I'm here with my colleague Jessica, who is based in sunny Algarve, which she will tell you. We both work at Matla, which is a Portuguese law firm specializing in real estate and connected areas of law.
Hello everyone. My name is Jessica, as Joana said. I'm a Portuguese lawyer as well, and I'm based in the Algarve, lucky me. And that's it. We both work at Math Law, and it's very good to be here today.
Okay, so during this session, our aim is to share valuable insights and also answering questions to help you better navigate through the complexities or not of real estate transactions here in Portugal. So I'm not sure if we can start, Chris.
Yes,
Or-
yeah. Please, if anybody has any questions, please put them into the little tab on the right hand side, and we'll come to them afterwards after Joanna has given her presentation. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Christopher. So I'll begin by addressing some of the most frequently asked questions, and then both Jessica and I will be available to answer any questions that you may have. So let's begin. Legal tips and advice. All you need to know about property purchase in Portugal. So our first question is actually a very big one to us lawyers, especially. So what's the biggest mistakes that buyers can make? We would say that the biggest mistakes buyers often make are allowing themselves to be influenced by outside pressure and rushing through the process. When buyers feel compelled to make quick decisions or follow others' opinions, they risk overlooking essential details, compromising on important needs, or paying more than planned, leading to potential regrets down the line. So, taking the time to make informed, unpressured choices is key to a successful purchase. The secret truly is to trust the process and your lawyer. So, with that will lead us to our next question, which is, when should we be in touch with a lawyer? Ideally, in a perfect world, both buyers and sellers should benefit from the assistance of a lawyer from the beginning of the process, so that the process runs as smoothly as possible for the parties and their interests are properly covered. Consulting a lawyer at an early stage of the process avoids future problems, which, depending, of course, on their nature, may be complex to solve. Oftentimes, clients reach out for legal assistance only after, let's say, the promissory contract has been signed or when issues have already surfaced. Unfortunately, it's very common that by that stage, options may be limited, and we're actually often managing damage control rather than providing proactive solutions. So please seek legal assistance. That is very important. So let's go to our next question. How long can the process take from offer to keys in my hand? It is truly hard to set a deadline. So the answer is it depends, which is a very cliche answer for lawyers, but it truly depends on very factors. Each process is different, and the time can differ depending on a number of factors, such as if the documents needed to complete a deal are available and in order, is the process of legalizing the property and also in order or completed, the availability of the parties themselves. If there is financing in the purchase process, it tends to take longer since the availability of the funds depends on the bank's approval. In any case, and based on cases that we have done, we can give an estimate of, we've had very quick cases that took, let's say, a month and a few weeks, and then we've had longer cases that have taken a lot of months, let's say 6, 7, even 8. It truly depends on a number of factors. Our next question is, are there other costs to consider on top of the purchase price? This is also a very popular question. There are a lot of costs to be considered, such as property transfer tax, which is between 1% and 8%, depending on the property's price. Stamp duty is also another cost to consider, which is 0.8% over the purchase price. There are notary fees, legal fees, registration costs, surveyor fees, if that's the case, real estate agents' fees, and mortgage costs if a loan is requested. Here at Matlaw, we actually do a thing that it is our standard practice to provide our clients with a detailed breakdown of the costs involved in a real estate purchase, all the costs involved, so that any prospective buyer is fully aware of the dimension of their investment. So that is something that is truly important to us. Our next question is it normal to get a technical survey done? Yes, it is normal. And more than normal, it's actually highly recommended to get a survey done when purchasing a property in Portugal. So even though this is not a legal requirement, it is a prudent step that the buyer can adopt to protect himself against any hidden damage to the property or when the property is questioned is already very old. Also, bear in mind that a lot of things, it's impossible that a buyer that is not an electrician will look at the meters or anything like that and can get a sense of if it's bad, if it's in working conditions. So a technical survey is truly important because they will go to the minute detail to find out what is wrong with the property, if anything is wrong with the property. So it's very important. It is, but again, not a legal requirement, but it's a prudent step to take. Another questions that are frequently asked are, do I need a Portuguese fiscal number? And do I need to appoint a fiscal representative? To the first question, yes. If you are purchasing property or conducting any financial transaction in Portugal, you will need a Portugal fiscal number. It's called the NIF in Portugal, Número de Identificação Fiscal, and you will need it. Additionally, and regarding to our second question, if you reside outside the European Union, you are required to appoint a fiscal representative in Portugal to handle tax-related correspondence on your behalf, and the representative will also ensure that you stay compliant with Portuguese tax obligations. If you reside in the European Union, it is not mandatory like it is if you reside outside the European Union, but again, it's highly recommended because, again, correspondence, tax obligations, it's truly just avoiding an headache is appointing a fiscal representative. Another popular question that is not here is, Do I need to be in Portugal for the purchase? You don't need to be in Portugal. Nowadays, the whole process can be done remotely. To do this, the client is asked to sign a power of attorney, empowering the attorneys to facilitate the process. This way, the entire buying or selling process can be handled with those same attorneys without you being present in Portugal all the time. Another question is, oh, and this is a very important question. What difference is it buying off plan, and what do you need to know? When buying off plan, you are purchasing a property before its construction or completion. And for this reason, your decision will rely on projects, architectural plans, rather than the actual property that you can't see because it's not done yet. The payment structure always also tends to be a little bit different. So it's typical for the buyer to make an additional deposit, a normal initial deposit, and then this is the different part, it's followed by scheduled payments as construction progresses, with the balance, the remaining funds, paid on completion. Another point to bear in mind is the waiting time, which is because the property is under construction, it's usually longer when you buy off plan since the construction is ongoing. Related to this question is how safe is off plan? Off plan off plan purchases carry a very unfair bad reputation. We are used to hear these horrible stories about people losing money or buildings that were never completed. But the truth is, like all deals, it's hard to say that buying off plan is totally safe. There are, of course, risks like in any other deals, but the key is take some precautions. It is hardly advised to the buyers to adopt some practices to feel a lot safer when choosing this type of purchase. For example, do your due diligence or ask a professional to do your due diligence and select a developer that has a strong reputation and proven track record. If the developer has successfully completed previous projects and on time, it helps reducing the risk of delays, incomplete buildings, and losing money. Another essential step that we can't stress enough is having a well written contract. This is essential when you opt for this type of purchase. And that's exactly what we lawyers are for, helping you make the best decisions. Often, these contracts are very beneficial to the developers. It's almost like they are done to their measure. So, lawyers will ensure that the contract contains the necessary clauses to protect the buyer, like completion timelines, refund policies, and quality standards. So it's very important to take precautions to make sure that the purchase goes as smoothly as possible. Because why? From our practical perspective, clients only come to us after the damage is done. When in these cases and in all cases, they should actually seek preventive legal assistance is the key. Uh, get a lawyer from the start of the process in any type of deal, but especially when you are buying off plan is very, very important. Our next question is, what paperwork do I need to be able to buy? Do I need a bank account in that country? So, related to the documents and to purchase property in Portugal, you will need several documents depending on the type of deal it is, but you will need, as previously said, your Portuguese fiscal number. This is essential for all property transactions. Another document is, of course, your valid passport. A copy of your valid identification document is, of course, required. Proof of address, a recent utility bill or official document confirming your residence, it's also requested. Proof of income and financial documents. If you are applying for a mortgage, then the bank will require proof of your financial status. We are talking about salary slips, tax returns, that kind of documentation. And sometimes they will ask also for the marriage certificate. If you are married and you are purchasing jointly, a copy of your marriage certificate may be required. Regarding the second question, no, you do not need to have a bank account in Portugal, even though it is recommended. In the case you don't have any, but have an attorney based in Portugal, he or she can handle the transaction and payment logistics on your behalf. You can authorize the attorney to manage all financial aspects of the property purchase. However, it is highly recommended to have a bank account because it will come in handy with transactions associated with the property purchase, such as paying property taxes and utility bills, because usually in utility bills here in Portugal, they are paid by direct debit from your account. So it's highly beneficial to have your own Portuguese account. So another question, very popular, is if I'm asked to sign a document for a small reservation deposit, am I safe to do that? You are, but with, of course, a few conditions. So let's see. The reservation agreement is nothing more than a way for the potential purchaser to guarantee exclusivity over the property before the deal is signed upon payment, usually of a price. This way, the property is taken off the market for a period of time that has been agreed between the parties. Let's say normally it's 3, 4, 5, 6 months around that, giving the potential buyer time to identify any contingencies in the property. Usually, they will ask a survey to do this, and also giving the parties time to prepare the terms of the contract that they will enter into with the view to concluding the deal. It is also very important, again, I'm saying this a lot because it is, to seek legal advice before signing any type of these agreements, because if in case that the deal does not go through, it is very important to stipulate that the amount paid will be refunded. This sometimes it's not, and the parties will sign this and then they get surprised that they are actually losing the money and won't get refunded. So this is a very important step. It is also very important to stipulate that the deal does go through, so the deal is happening, the price paid will be deducted from the property purchase price, usually counted towards the deposit. So let's say you're buying a property for 300,000, you made a reservation, you paid 500,000, 5,000 actually. Those 5,000 should be deducted from the whole amount that you are paying, and not 300,000 plus 5,000. No. So this is actually really important that you let a professional see these type of agreements to make sure that everything is in order. And our last question is also leads to the deposit. How does the mechanism of the deposit work? So in Portugal, and I think this is common in very other countries, the deposit is usually paid when the promissory contract is signed, which outlines the terms of the sale. The deposit is typically around 10% of the purchase price. This usually will vary with stipulations from the parties, but it's usually 10%. And the deposit serves as a commitment to proceed with the transaction. And it is usually non-refundable if the buyer backs out of the deal, unless some specific conditions are met. Let's say that the seller fails to meet any term of the contract. In that case, there will be a refund because it's not the buyer's fault. But usually it's not refundable. So we always we always like to warn our clients before signing the contract. Please bear in mind that if the deal does not go through and it can be tracked to you, the reason can be tracked to you, then these amounts will not be refunded. But if the seller, the vendor, on the other hand, defaults, the amounts are usually refunded to the buyer, sometimes actually with additional compensation. It truly depends on what is in the promissory contract. And then the deposit is again deducted from the final purchase price and is paid to the seller's account or held by the lawyer involved in the transaction. This is, of course, depends on the party's preference, but it's also very important that you seek legal assistance when you are making promissory contracts, just to make sure that you are aware of any contingencies of you are making an investment. So please just take very well care of your investment and your money and make sure that you are safe. So I do believe that from our part, this was it. We've covered the key topics, but of course there are many other valid and interesting questions. So feel free to
Okay.
ask anything, and
I'm
both
just gonna make
Jessica and I will be happy to
I'm just
help.
gonna make I'm just gonna make that a little bit larger so everyone
Okay,
can see
thank
that.
you.
They can take a photo of their screen, or they can get your details down there. And like I say, you've got Joanna in Lisbon, and you got Jessica down in the Algarve. So there's most of our areas covered. Um, Now, so I have a few questions. Well, I suppose a big general question. I mean, obviously, most people, it all goes very very smoothly. If there is a problem, where does it normally happen? What's the biggest mistake that overseas buyers make? Would you say?
The biggest mistakes are not stipulating everything in the contract. So let's say this happens a lot of times. The house needs reparations, and parties are aware of this, but they don't stipulate that the reparations must be done in the promissory contract. So then they sign a promissory contract, they go to the deed, and then they come to us and say, my house is broken, the AC doesn't work, the tiles are removing themselves, there's a problem with the meters, with the electricity, and what can we do? At that point, there's not much you can do besides paying with your own funds the reparations. This is a very common thing that happens. So it is very important that first, and picking up what was said on the presentation, a survey a survey will tell you all the contingencies present at the property. What is wrong? What is not wrong? What should be fixed? Most of these surveys actually now they say this is the problem. This is how it is. This is what it's done to be fixed. Sometimes even they give us a little estimate of the costs, and then we can replicate that in the promissory contract, and we can say that the reparations must be done until the final deed is completed. Therefore, when you go into your home, your new home, preparations are all done, and you will have a very enjoyable start to this new stage of your life.
Okay, and is it organizing a survey something that you would help us with, or would we find a person
Yeah.
ourselves?
We have a lot of contacts with surveyors, so we usually we ask for 2 or 3 proposals from trusted surveyors that we work, and then we will send to the clients for their analysis. We translate them because they are usually done in Portuguese. We translate them for a complete understanding and analysis of the clients, and then they choose the proposal that they prefer.
Okay. Now, in terms of what you do and what the client would do, I know we can use power of attorney, but for signing the final deed, is that something that you would suggest people turn up to? Is that normal that we would get power of attorney, or is it normal to come over? Would you say?
Well, Jessica, I think she will agree with me on this one, but when the power attorney, it's good for the promissory contract and it's good for the deed. Actually, we usually do, we always, I would say like 95% of the times we do a promissory contract first and then the deed. You can go straight to the deed, but we don't recommend that. And in these cases, because we always or almost always do the promissory contract, when we get to the deed, everything is done, everything is stipulated. So there is no need for the client to be there unless he wants to be present because it is a milestone. And but any other motive than that, it's truly not necessary for the clients to be present. It's only if they want to, they can be, which we always love that clients go with us. We always like to enjoy that moment with them, but it's not necessary.
Okay. Now, if you're anything like me and and my wife, we see a property and we think, oh, we love the property, it's perfect. And then we think, oh, but it'd be more perfect if there was a swimming pool there, if we could just convert that to that, if we had a different roof or whatever. Now, would we come to you in advance and before we, got too far down the road and said, is this going to be possible? Will we be able to put a swimming pool in, convert that
Well,
building and so on?
in that case, and actually Jessica is the expert on urban planning, but in that case, we would need to confirm the urban planning rules applicable to the property, because sometimes it's okay to build a pool and sometimes it's not okay to build a pool. And if you build it and you build it illegally, then the city council can make an inspection, and they give you two options: or you either transform the pool be to be within the legal requirements, or in extreme cases, you will have to demolish the pool. And no one wants to demolish a pool. We don't want that. So please, when in that case, this client has come to us and say, what can I build in this property? Can I build a pool? Can I build an outside patio? What can I do? And we see the legal requirements for the property, and we'll tell them, you can do this, you cannot do that. So we always tend to do that due diligence on behalf of our clients.
Okay. And in terms of renovations, suppose we find that gorgeous old property, but there's things like it needs new shutters, or it needs new. Are the authorities very strict on what you can do? Is that a bit of a minefield, or
No,
is it fairly straightforward? Would you say?
I would say that there is this idea, even with us in Portugal, that inside your property, inside your four walls, you can do everything you want. It's not so much like that. It's not 100% like that. But if you are speaking about standard management of the property, changing the shutters, changing doors, changing the tiles of your property, the authorities will not pick on that. But if you decide to build, I don't know, an additional bathroom or an additional additional room to your property, then the authorities may pick on that. So, but it truly depends on the scale of the renovation that you intend to take. Usually, the authorities are not over you with a glass magnifier, seeing what have you done to the property since you bought it. No, it's not the case. But it's usually, I would say, it depends truly on the scale of what you intend to do.
What? How about if we want to buy a holiday home, and we're thinking, well, we're not going to be there in August, so perhaps we can rent it out in August. So I'm not. So if we want to rent it out, not perhaps on a full-time basis, but just occasionally, how does that process work? Is that something that you can help us with, helping us apply for licenses and
Oh,
what have you?
yes. So that is very common where clients, actually, that would be a case where you only intend to rent the property over the summer or over a limited period of time. Usually not, but some of our clients do invest on these properties for renting or doing local lodging, which is completely okay. In some areas of Portugal, local lodging is not possible because of there is a little bit of a housing crisis in Portugal. So it's in some locations, I think, Jessica, correct me, but in Lisbon and in Porto, local lodging has some restrictions. But but general rule, you can rent, you can do local lodging. We just have to make sure that the requirements are met. If the location of the property is possible to do local lodging, but you can, general rule, do that.
Okay, lovely. We're nearly out of time. We have got a couple of audience questions. Uh, right, the first one is from Adrian. Is it better to or easier to with money from a Portuguese bank account or a UK bank account, or does it make no difference?
I am so sorry. Can you repeat the question, Christopher? I
Yeah,
heard with a little bit of echo.
yes. Is it better to buy with money from a Portuguese bank account or via a UK bank, or doesn't it make any difference?
The only difference that it makes it's timelines. So if you're under a strict timeline, it is better to have the amounts on your Portuguese account or send it to your lawyer's Portuguese account to make the payment for you. If not, if there's no time constraints, I would say that it doesn't make a lot of difference. But we usually always recommend our clients to first send the funds to us, and we will make the deposit. We will make the payments on their behalf, because when you do it on a Portuguese account, oftentimes the vendors will get the money even on the day itself or the day after. So it does speed up a lot of the process.
Excellent. Okay, we have actually run out of time. I hope the people perhaps have contacted you via LinkedIn or via the contact details there. It's been really interesting. We haven't dealt with residency questions because this was a fine webinar. But do please look at our
Yeah.
other events where we definitely will be going into residency in great detail. So so basically, we really recommend that you contact Jessica and Joanna directly as soon as you are committed, have decided that you're going to buy a property in Portugal. As we've seen, they're really lovely people to work with, and we highly recommend them. So, if you have found this webinar useful, there should be a Trustpilot link coming up, and we'd be delighted if you put a recommendation for it. There you go, on Trustpilot. And that's all we have to say. So thank you very much, Joanna. Thank you very much, Jessica. And thank you very much for attending. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much,
much.
Christopher, for helping us with this webinar. It was truly our pleasure, and feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.